de tout reprogrammer. On ira, on saura sauver notre existence, se donner une chance de tout effacer. On ira, on saura sauver notre existence pour refaire un monde sans danger. Comme tout reprogrammer.
Hello, and welcome to Return to the Past, a Code Lyoko retrospective, the internet's premier Code Lyoko podcast, because we're the first, and the only, and the best. I'm Ben, and I am a monument to all your sins.
I'm Bruce Willis, and I'm the greatest action hero in all of France.
I'm David, and WebMD says I'm dying.
Welcome back.
Welcome back, everyone. We're very glad to have you.
We are indeed very glad to have you. Did you enjoy the first episode? This is actually the first one we've recorded since we actually released the podcast for the first time. And in fact, just like 10 minutes ago, I released the second episode.
And...
So what are you doing?
Wait, well, don't forget, next week we will record one in the same room. Mary and I will, at least. And that'll be another first.
Yes, we will. And that'll be the fourth episode.
And I'll still be over here, alone. That's cool. That's great. That's fine. No one needs to invite Ben to anything. That's fine.
But you'll be here in April.
True. Okay.
Yes.
We've never actually, like, the three of us have never been in the same room at the same time.
We never have been, have we?
No.
Well, we do kind of live in a Bermuda Triangle of the United States of America.
That's true.
What a future this is.
Well, it's, if it weren't for the internet, we never would have met at all. So...
That's very true. And if not for Code Lyoko, which is a TV show with episodes like Episode 3, Holiday in the Fog, which we will talk about after these messages.
Wait, do we have sponsors now? No?
Well, no, we have what we in the business call action items.
Oh, yes, of course.
I expected messages from a rushing number station. I thought that's what we would do.
Unfortunately, I don't have those kinds of connections.
7, 8, 3. I mean, I can say numbers.
We can probably find audio of a real number station on YouTube.
We probably can. I wonder why they say the numbers in English and not Russian. Oh well. Maybe it's because I speak English and the world revolves around me.
That's probably it.
Yeah.
It's absolutely it. So first of all, I would like, as I was saying earlier, I'd like to thank everybody for their spectacular feedback on our podcast and your excitement. And I only hope that whatever we get to doing in this episode and in future episodes, you'll still like it and you'll still continue to leave comments or talk to us directly. And in fact, if you have questions or comments, or you want to talk about how Code Lyoko has personally touched you, or you want to talk about how ridiculous the foreheads are because that's the most common topic of conversation, you can actually email us at RTTP That's RTTP and then the word podcast at gmail.com. Or you can find us on Twitter at RTTP podcast, spelled the same way.
You ever notice how RTTP sounds kind of like RTTP?
I have never thought that until just now.
Well, there you go. That's my gift to you.
It's not something to say that flows very well, but it's very visually pleasing, you know?
Yeah,
Lots of double letters.
Kind of like Otto and Hannah Tibbetts. Whose names are palindromes.
I love it.
They're characters from a book I read once called The Big
Oh.
Over Easy by Jasper Fforde. # Jasper Fforde is a good writer.
Yes,
Are you telling me that it's not Jasper Fforde?
Jasper Fforde, indeed, yes.
Okay.
A guy-
All right.
I didn't know you knew about him. Way to go. You have good taste.
Mary had a book written by him in her possession, and I saw that book, and I believe I have made the Jasper Fforde joke to her several times.
You have. I had it prominently displayed in my dorm room.
What's funny is that I read the first, I think it was the first 2 or 3 Thursday Next books, and I kept going to my school library in high school to request the rest of the series. But every single time I did, somebody would assume that the double F was a typo, and they couldn't find Jasper single F Ford.
Oh, no!
So I had to do a little clarifying.
Huh.
Yeah, there's my unexciting anecdote from my high school memories of the day.
Is the name for Ford really that uncommon? I guess it is.
I've never seen it
Welsh.
before.
It is Walsh. Okay.
I think.
Another exciting thing that we have here at the podcast now is we have, as you can clearly see, a spectacular cover image. As you can see, it's very beautiful. And we have Ingram to thank for that. Ingram is a friend of mine who did that drawing of the factory for us. And you can find them also on Twitter at Ingram Comics. That's INGRAM Comics with an X. Or you can go to their website, which is also ingramcomics.com, and you can throw money at them and get some art of your own, or look at what they've got.
You really should, because, I mean, you've seen it the whole time, of course. We only recently began seeing it, and let me tell you that I am in awe of every time that I see it. So thank you to Ingram for your wonderful assistance in our fledgling young podcast.
It is indeed
Precisely.
a very nice-looking logo, so thank you, Ingram.
Snaps for Ingram. I don't think that is going to show up on my thing. I can't really snap.
Oh.
They're mental snaps.
Like that?
Okay. I will snap on your behalf.
Thank you very much. So, one bit of feedback that we got was we were asked whether we intended for people to watch the episode before they listen to us, or to have this sort of be a podcast that could be listened to whether you'd watch the episode or not. And we decided that we're not going to be like play-by-play particularly intentionally, but we're still gonna, give enough of a summary that you don't necessarily have to watch the episode.
But you should, because Code Lyoko is great.
It is. And in fact, if you want to watch the episode, as we've been saying, it is available from its current owner free and legally on YouTube. And you can find it at the channel Code Lyoko English Official US. They've uploaded up to episode 77 so far, with new episodes every week.
How far along are they now? Do they have most of the show?
Pretty much.
They have most...
Oh, good.
Yeah, they're like halfway through season 4.
Oh, okay. What do you think they're going to do when the show ends? Will they upload the thing that doesn't exist?
We're not going to talk about the thing that doesn't exist, because it doesn't exist.
We talk about it every episode.
I know, but it doesn't exist. I just like to remind people that it does not exist and never happened.
Nope, it never happened.
The 3D was pretty good, though.
Also, if you would like to watch Code Lyoko in your native language that is not English, they also have official channels in Spanish, in Italian, in Brazilian Portuguese, in Turkish, in the original French, and apparently in Russian, but it looks a little sparse.
Well, how about that? I didn't realize. I guess I knew Code Lyoko had a broader following than just the United States and France. I didn't realize it was big in Turkey.
I think it's been dubbed and pretty much all over the world.
It's one of the shows. It's so strange, because there was one moment in time when it was huge and it was everywhere, but I don't think that many people remember it now or think about it that much.
One thing I do remember is that they tried to air Code Lyoko in the People's Republic of China. China has a rule that the only things that can air on Chinese television are things that are produced in the People's Republic of China. So they had to fake like it was. They set up a little studio and pretended that studio was in fact creating Code Lyoko. My God. They caught on, and it stopped airing. I don't remember, because it had a different title than Code Lyoko. I don't speak Chinese, of course, nor do I remember what the English translation was, but I do recall very vividly that they had attempted to air Code Lyoko in China, but as far as I know, we're not able to continue doing so, as it was aired in other places.
Oh my goodness gracious, I had no idea. Holy crap.
Yeah, this is news to me too.
I knew it stopped airing in China for some reason, but I didn't know that was the reason.
There you go.
Well, that's the reason, I think, they make so many obvious knockoffs of non-Chinese shows. Like, the one that's popular right now is the obvious knockoff of The Amazing World of Gumball.
Oh, I've heard of this.
Yeah, only he's a goat instead of a cat, but otherwise it's the exact same show. Like, frame by frame, it's the same thing, only they recreate the drawings with a goat.
So, yeah, all of a sudden, the Chinese... That makes so much more sense. Holy shit.
We here at Return to the Past are in the business of blowing your mind in every possible way.
We absolutely are. Or we're in the business of not blowing your mind, as was the case in the last episode. But in this episode, you know what we're doing?
What are we doing, Mary?
We're fogging your mind.
Oh, she said it. Oh, God.
I said it. Now, one thing that I think confuses a lot of people, particularly us U.S. Americans, about this episode is, what the heck holiday is this? Because this actually takes place over a 1-week break for Caddick Academy.
I always assumed it was spring break, or the French equivalent thereof.
Kind of. It's in the fall. It's a week-long holiday known as Toussaint. Those of you like me who grew up in Christian households might know it as All Saints' Day, but here it is a week-long vacation from school.
Something like an analog, roughly speaking, to our Thanksgiving break, because they don't have that in France.
No, they certainly do not. That is a very American thing, and this is a French thing. I think probably all countries try and get some manner of fall break in there, because September to December is a real long time, folks.
It very much is.
Well, the dilemma is that if they're not on campus, who's gonna take charge of what's going on Lyoko?
Jim.
Yeah, Jim, the guy who, as we open up, is asleep in his room. He lives at the school. We find out here.
I still think that's. I mean, it's a boarding school, obviously, and I imagine the teachers can probably come from as many far-flung areas as the students do. But I just think it's hilarious that Jim lives in the school.
It's not unknown. It's not unknown for boarding schools. I've known of boarding schools where teachers and their families have lived on campus.
That's how Hogwarts works. Remember?
Oh, of course,
yeah,
Hogwarts.
Of course.
You know, when Dolores Umbridge tries to fire Professor Trelawney and she has to pack her bags.
Oh, yes.
Oh, man, that was
thing.
Such a sad moment.
Yeah, Jim is the Professor Trelawney of Caddick, of course, obviously. You
Yes,
can't
he
get two
definitely
characters who are more similar.
No, you can't. And then, David, you have the story about the janitor.
Well, there's not really a story to it. It's just that the janitor at my middle school lived on campus. He had his own little shack.
Oh, he had a shack on campus.
Well, it wasn't. I'm being overly dismissive. It wasn't a shack. It was just like a house on school property.
Oh,
I didn't know you could do that at public schools, though.
Yeah, I did. Well, I didn't think it was weird until we started having this conversation yesterday. So, there you go.
And then I told you about my mother's art teacher who lived in the mobile home parked in the parking lot.
as one does.
As one does. But yes, he lives at the school, and what the kids decide to do is they are going to get one of them, specifically Jeremy, in trouble, so that Jeremy will have to stay at the school over the break, and so that he can keep an eye on Xana, which for many reasons makes absolutely no sense.
They can't just turn the thing off while they're away. No,
they certainly can't.
They have to go through some convoluted plot. Nor can Jeremy just ask, apparently. Like, hey, can I stay here over the break? Nope, school's closed. Get out.
Well, maybe
Exactly.
his parents don't want him to stay. Maybe he has to find a reason to stay behind.
Well, that's just it. I mean, his parents haven't seen him for a month, so chances are they would want him to come home.
And we also don't know, and they don't know, if turning off the computer would affect Aelita.
Yes, I think maybe we shouldn't consider that a plot hole anymore, because they probably think that turning off the computer might, straight up kill her.
It is true that we know more than they do at this point.
That's very true. I mean, we only really find that out when later in the series they go ahead and try and turn off the supercomputer, and it's treated as this big thing, like it's the first time they can turn it off. And then, well, you know the rest of the story. So what they decide to do to get in trouble is Ulrich and Jeremy go out and paint a very unflattering caricature of Jim on the side of the vending machines.
He's wearing a pink bunny hood, not unlike Louise Belcher from Bob's Burgers, which you can enjoy on Sundays on Fox.
And for the record, it's a very unflattering image. Like, I think Jim is shouting in it or something. But it's, as far as art goes,
Yeah.
suspiciously good.
It is very good art.
I don't know what Jeremy and Ulrich intend on doing with their lives, but it seems to me like professional graffiti-style art, if professional and graffiti can be in the same sentence together.
Banksy.
I'm not sure. You're right, excuse me. So yes, obviously... Maybe Jeremy is Banksy.
Oh!
Wait, hold on. WMG. One person that's seen Banksy is fellow graffiti artist King Robbo, and he confirms that Banksy wears glasses. True story.
I can't handle this.
I can't handle this either.
Who would have thought that Banksy has been a 12-year-old French child this whole time?
Sorry,
This whole
we
time, all
ruined your
these
secret
years.
identity, Banksy. We didn't mean to do it.
All these years, he's been 12.
Well, I mean, you know what happens. Ash Ketchum, also famous,
I know.
permanent 12-year-old.
Remember that Twilight parody with Ash Ketchum?
Oh,
How old are
How old
you?
are you?
10.
12.
How long have you been 10?
A while.
That was a good meme from 10 years ago. One of the better ones.
It was. Well, it's still 10 years old, as we all know. And so what they do to make sure that Jim sees this is that Odd releases the hounds. Or rather, the one hound. At least, I think that's a dog.
Yeah, we are told that it is a dog. So we generally proceed under the assumption that it is a dog. But here's the thing. The dog, Odd's
Kiwi.
dog, Kiwi, who lives with him in his dorm, stuffed in a drawer. Secretly. Well,
First kept secret on campus.
it's secret to the teachers. All the students know. He is stylized. Let's put it that way. He's a very stylized dog, and they take great care to stylize. In particular, any shot you see of Kiwi walking, you will probably see his very specially animated balls. They're you can't ignore them. They're just there. You see them.
Yes, you do. You do. Also, he has a very big nose. I'm just noticing as I look at pictures of
He
Kiwi.
looks like Frankenweenie.
He does.
he does.
He looks like what Zero from Nightmare Before Christmas would have looked like if he was alive.
No, Zero is much cuter than Kiwi. It just hurts to look at.
Kiwi reminds me of, like, the worst kind of ankle-biter dog that, some rich person would put in sweaters and carry in their purse, and it's just a really gross, hideous animal. Now, that's just because I really don't like Chihuahuas. But Kiwi is not a Chihuahua. Well, it's not exactly explicitly stated.
He's a
but
bull terrier, isn't he?
He's supposed to be a bull terrier. And if you look up a bull terrier, and bull terriers in real life, by the way, adorable dogs. Love them. Good
They're
doggos.
beautiful. They have very unique faces, which, if you look at Kiwi and a bull terrier side by side, you can see the resemblance. But yes, Kiwi's heavily stylized. He's a good doggo, though. There is no such thing as a non-good doggo.
No, 13 out of 10. A+ doggo. But just weird.
There's something about him that always bothered me. He has really angry eyes.
He does. Yeah. And very noticeably sharp teeth.
And a very big head.
That's about
this is Code Lyoko.
Yeah.
They all have big... You know what? Maybe that's why his head is so long. Because Kiwi also has a big forehead. Oh, everything makes sense now.
It's all connected.
It's all connected.
Well, now it's my turn to have my mind blown. I had never made that connection.
Me neither. Oh, man. So yes, Kiwi goes into Jim's room, jumps up, licks his face, and then Jim chases him all over the campus, only to catch Jeremy red-handed.
Apparently Ulrich decided, LOL, no, I'm ditching you, and books it. So only Jeremy gets caught with, he's standing right by this, giant graffiti of, mocking graffiti of Jim. And the thing about Jeremy is that he's pretty nonchalant about it.
Yeah, he says, if I had time, I could have done the eyes better.
And you know something? Jeremy's kind of a smartass. I don't know if you guys have noticed at this point, ever. But, spoiler alert, Jeremy's really a smartass.
He is. He exists in this quantum state of... He wants to be cool, but at the same time, he knows how smart he is, and he takes every chance he gets to be really stuck up about it.
Well, I think he does that because he knows he isn't cool, like his friends who are very cool. So he overcompensates by exaggerating his smartness.
That's exactly what I think, too. And so, the next day, Jean-Pierre Delmas, who now has his actual voice...
And it's like night and day different. Like, you know, in the first couple of episodes, he's got this really kind of high voice, and in this episode, it's very much, you know, stern and paternal and I am the principal of this school type voice. I think it's a great voice, actually. To be honest, and now that I'm about to say this, it really comes to me. I think his voice is among my favorite in the series. Do we know who voices him?
Actually, it's David Gasman, I think.
And that's odd, right?
No, David Gasman is Jim, it's Herb, and later it will be William.
And also Rayman. Don't forget.
Yes.
Voices Rayman.
Yes, I think out of all the voice actors on Code Lyoko, probably David Gasman as Rayman has the most recognizable credit.
The highest public profile.
Yeah.
Didn't he also do some weird film once? Or was that one of the other ones?
I mean... No, it was Matt Geske that did a weird film once.
That's why I thought he was the two G names. There we go.
I don't know about this weird film. What was it?
It was a really... all I ever saw was the trailer.
Oh, dude, was that the one about the trucker?
No, that was Jeremy Perrin, who was one of the people that worked on Garage Kids. And Jeremy's named after him. He became a very, very strange animator. Do not look up anything he's done.
Really, don't do it. It's...
How do you spell that? That name? What was that?
You know, Mary has seen 2 of his cartoons. I've only seen 1. And I've stayed away from the second one because Mary emphatically told me never to look at it. So
you didn't look at it?
One of them, no. I've only seen one of them. I don't know if it's okay to talk about it in this podcast. It's probably a little too adult.
Let's not. Let's save that for Return to the Past After Dark. Which doesn't exist, by the way.
It does not exist.
Yet.
It shouldn't exist.
It will never exist.
It will never exist. So more to the point, what happens is they're all really happy about this because Jeremy can now stay here and protect Aelita nominally because, of course, Jeremy can totally... What is he going to do when Xana attacks? He's just gonna call the others for help.
Yeah, well, you know.
So they're... But either way, they're happy. They're talking about how Xana doesn't stand a chance.
Well, we should emphasize that a little more. Jeremy is staying behind, but nobody else is. So even if there is a Xana attack, there's nothing he can do.
Right, and they're all going probably really far away. I mean, Odd is getting on a plane to wherever he lives. We don't actually know where he lives.
It is referenced that he is going halfway on the other side of the planet. We don't know where or in what direction. It's worth noting that Della Robbia, we don't know that's his last name, but that is his last name. That's an Italian name. Odd is a Norse name. So really, nobody knows where Odd is from. Your guess is as good as ours. We have no idea where he's going, at all, under any circumstances.
None, and it's never mentioned. My guess is that he's from America, but, you know.
Do you really think so?
I mean, that struck me as half a world away, and it is the Great American Melting Pot.
That's very true. I recall, I'm not sure if I got that sense from you or maybe from other people, but it seemed to me like that was a thing that was around in fandom circles in contemporary times, was that Odd was American.
But consider the following. Odd is very scrawny, and in a French cartoon, Americans are always fat.
Point. That's a very good point.
Emphasize it. Maybe that's supposed to be the joke.
A non-fat American? Who ever heard of that?
We're building castles in the air right now, you understand.
I'm not familiar with that idiom. Explain to me what it means.
It basically means that we're speaking in abstract.
Oh, yes we are. Perhaps we should bring it back down to Earth and or Lyoko.
And, well, right now it's Earth. Because we get to the subplot of this story, which is that Sissi overhears them talking about this Xana. and immediately she wants to know what's up.
She sure does. Jeremy is tasked with scrubbing off his graffiti with soap and water. Wait, no, not yet. First, Sissi has to convince her dad to let her stay at school over the break.
Which is very easy, like distressingly easy. Also, guys, I know that our listeners won't be able to see this, but I have to show you this screenshot. Like, right. Feast your eyes.
That's a good screenshot. We should find a way to include that when we reveal this episode to our listening public, because that's a good screenshot. We should say now. By the way, there is a fan site. It's called CodeLyoko.fr. It's in French, but you can it has an English version, and it is just an incredible, immense resource. And one of the resources it has is a page of screenshots from every single episode. And there are probably hundreds of screenshots from every single episode. You can see the course of the story happen through stills, and it's great.
It is. It's wonderful. I used to look at these for fun when I couldn't watch the episodes back in high school. It's such an amazing resource. I'm pretty sure that the pictures were taken with a computer program because there's just so many of them. And like I said, you can switch between English and French by clicking on pictures of Jim.
I was going to say that. I was going to say click on American Jim to see the English version of the site.
Right. Or you can click on French Jim.
And you know what? You just go to CodeLyoko.fr and click on Jim. Just do it. It's an experience that you have to live. And you have not yet lived until you have clicked on French Jim.
That being said, Return to the Past is not responsible for the extreme levels of arousal that you will experience when you see French Jim.
Also, I have to show you guys the 404 error page not found page.
I don't know if I can click on that.
Oh.
For technical reasons.
Oh my god! Holy crap! That's intense.
Isn't it? It's great.
For
those of you who can't see it,
including
if I
me.
happen to keep... It's the factory, but it's like glowing deep red, and there's all this electricity in the air, and it has this big angry 404 message. It looks like a horror movie poster.
Yeah, it's pretty horrifying. In a good way.
Does it look like a lost episode of Code Lyoko?
You know,
a little bit.
Yeah.
If someone were to make the Code Lyoko creepypasta.
It must be the episode where they find out that Return to the Past can't bring back dead people. That's probably where they lost
Kevin.
Oh, Kevin.
If we keep making fun of Kevin, then my real life friend Kevin might have something to say about it.
Well, blame it on Ben, not your other friend Ben. This Ben, because he invented Kevin.
No, I didn't invent Kevin. The people in Code Lyoko invented Kevin in the missing season 0, and then they killed him. You know what? That's not my fault. Don't blame me.
Remember when the Lyoko warriors made that blood pact to never speak of him again?
Yeah, that was a pretty intense scene.
It was.
Wait, actual thing. Remember that one kid, I want to say this was around 2008, that one kid on YouTube who claimed that he had created William Dunbar and that Moonscoop had stolen his original character, Do Not Steal?
I don't remember that.
I don't remember that at all.
That was the thing on our Code Lyoko internet hangouts.
I don't remember that at all.
Me neither. I mean, it doesn't surprise me. I mean, people get these ideas in their heads all the time.
What? Somebody else copied my idea of a tall, dark-haired, broody new member of the Code Lyoko cast? Inconceivable.
I know, it's not like those were a dime a dozen back in the day.
In any fandom, of course.
It's such an early 2000s thing. You know, the
Yes.
broody, angsty emo teen.
As once we discussed with the many interpretations of human Xana.
Oh yeah, let's talk about that again.
Oh, I don't think we want to reawaken that.
Well,
I think we need to let what slumbers continue to slumber, because that is an ancient curse that you are about to break open.
Let me just say this. There were two schools of thoughts in the Code Lyoko fandom when it came to what Xana would look like as a human. One was sulky, angsty emo teen. The second was Darth Maul.
Basically.
Personally, I think that human Santa would probably look like Benedict Cumberbatch. That's
God.
just my theory.
I personally can't really picture him as a human at all. Like,
how do we know he's a he?
Contemporarily, I was squarely in the school of Xana being a male version of Ebony Darkness Dementia Raven Way. Of course, now in the future, I'm with Mary on this one. I can't conceive of Xana as a human at all. But, you know, when you're 13, 14 years old and you're watching a TV show, and, you know, it just makes sense to have Xana become a broody kid with black hair with a red streak who has obviously made himself human as a way to intervene in the Code Lyoko warriors.
and then he falls in love with insert character here.
Yeah. I mean, as it happened. Look, okay, we all make mistakes.
Well, I wouldn't call that a mistake. It's just a part of growing up and, you know, consuming media as a teen.
Exactly. Like, it's there, we don't do it anymore.
The
Instead-
fan wank is the fan wankery is definitely my favorite part of any fandom, personally. I'm not at all ashamed to admit it.
I mean, I like to be tsundere about it, but you're right. It's true. It's what makes it fun.
It is what makes it fun. We are having a lot of fun here on this Code Lyoko podcast.
And you know what? If we're being honest here, me being embarrassed about how I used to be in the Code Lyoko fandom is part of what makes me nostalgic about it. Because I grew up with the show. You know?
Same here.
I don't remember either one of you guys being cringy about it. I was probably cringier than the two of you. With my constant daydreams about being a Lyoko warrior and the self-insert fanfics I wrote about it.
I mean, I'm sure we all daydreamed about being a Code Lyoko warrior, and B, you're implying like I don't do that presently. Come on now. I think, you know, aside from apocalyptic horror every day, I think it's a fascinating thing to be a part of.
Oh, sure. Yeah, like you can't lose that you know, that childlike spark of imagination. Gotta keep it
Yeah,
fed.
no, you really can't. And also, I think part of it for me was just the appeal of being friends with these kids.
That's what it was all about, right?
Absolutely.
The actual action and science fiction mumbo jumbo that was less interesting than the social slice of life dynamics.
We've mentioned this before, I think, but
I think
want
we
to.
have. Yeah.
I want to put another point on it. These are fascinating characters. Okay, they all have depth. They're not just, you know, kids in a science fiction TV show for 12-year-olds to watch. I think they very much reflected a kind of depth that made them such a compelling thing to watch and to want to be a part of. Of course, I mean, I think this because I'm the type of person who would do a podcast about a show that stopped airing 10 years ago, but all the
Same
same,
here.
I think it's a
same
legitimate
here.
point.
To the point where sometimes I'm not really sure how much I've made up and how much is actually there. But more to the point here, I think the best example of that in this episode is Sissi and her entire motivation for staying behind and basically stalking Jeremy. So after the other three leave, and then we should mention, we didn't quite finish up with this, Odd is going halfway around the world. Yumi is going on a vacation to the mountains with her parents, and Ulrich gets to spend the entire week getting tutored in math. Which is wonderful.
By an old lady who sounds exactly like Mrs. Hertz.
Yes, indeed. While Jim, Sissi, and Jeremy seem to be the only ones left on campus. As we mentioned, Jeremy is scraping the graffiti off the wall with soap and water, while Jim semi-supervises Sissi doing math problems.
He has a very prison warden kind of attitude. He even has the sunglasses.
Yeah.
He does, which Sissi is distinctly reflected in.
Yeah,
It's pretty cool.
He has this lawn chair that he's hanging out in. It's a pretty comical scene. Like I'm reminded. I don't know what I'm reminded of, but the idea of this guy just leaning back, relaxing, watching these people do all this manual labor is a very typical scene, I think.
It is. And do you guys remember why he left?
He needed, Sissi said that she was struggling with these math problems. So she offers to help Jeremy scrub the painting off the wall.
Oh, yes.
And so Jim says, well, I'm going to go get a sponge.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And Jeremy then immediately says, hey, well, it's break time. And so he then sits in Jim's lawn chair.
It's a great scene. But the reason Sissi wanted him away was because she wanted to ask about Xana. She, gives Jeremy the third degree, oh, is that your girlfriend? Why are you talking about this? Tell me everything. And
But it's not because I like you or anything.
Right, she just really wants to know everything. She's really aggressive about it, too. You could tell she doesn't really know how to interact with Jeremy in any way that isn't aggressive.
Does she interact with Jeremy ever again?
On a personal level,
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
I'm sure that there are occasions, where they speak with one another, but as far as on this sort of level, I'm not sure. Now, I'm going to say that I don't remember it ever happening, but I don't remember this episode ever happening. I guess I remember the idea. No, you know what? No, I don't. I really don't. I don't remember this episode ever happening. When we, the hosts, were talking about the episode in preparation to watch it, and they mentioned the holiday in the fog. It turns out that I was remembering a completely different episode that also involved a gas-based enemy. Although we haven't really introduced the gas-based enemy in this episode, have we?
Actually, we can do that right now because it's about this time as the evening falls that Xana awakens.
In a room that is apparently in a basement full of giant, unlabeled drums that are apparently full of toxic chemicals. And as the camera pans down to these giant, unlabeled drums, they also see boxes on shelves, one of which is clearly labeled with the International Skull and Crossbones symbol of "This is going to kill you if you put it inside your body." So what exactly they need giant industrial drums full of toxic chemicals for, we don't know.
They're open, by the way, wide open. Wide open.
It's a private school. Government safety regulations don't apply.
Can you imagine?
We haven't seen Millie or Tamia yet ever since the first episode. Maybe they fell in.
Can you imagine?
What, David?
Take a breath. Take a breath.
Spill the beans.
Can you imagine if there were these drums with the skull and crossbones, but instead of toxic chemicals, there was a pirate in them?
Yarr! You found me booty!
Get out, me.
Wouldn't that be
Get out,
funny?
me drum.
I'm so sorry.
David, are you crying? You sound like you're crying laughing.
I'm cry laughing.
Okay.
Thank you for joining us for our pirate podcast.
I ruined the episode again. Oh no. Okay.
Okay.
I'm
Here,
back.
I'll distract you. So night falls, and Jeremy is talking to Aelita, and Aelita informs him that a tower has been activated, but she can't find it yet.
This, of course, being the premise for the beginning of every Xana attack in the entire first season. There's a tower activated, but we don't know where it is yet.
Exactly. So Jeremy tries to run out of there and try and get to the factory. Meanwhile, Sissi is talking
Have we talked about pulsations yet?
We've mentioned them.
Yeah, we've mentioned them.
Oh, okay. Alright.
Yes. Jeremy is talking on the phone with Herb and saying that she is going to finally get to... And here we get a little more of why she's here. She is finally going to get to the bottom of why Ulrich and his group... Or rather, why Jeremy and his group are always sneaking around. And she says something like, I'm going to be super spy, and she has this mirror that she can see around corners with, and then the next time we see her, she's fallen asleep.
You know, there's actually a noted parallel in the two scenes. we can say Aelita and Jeremy are talking, and of course Aelita's on his computer monitor, and they're talking through that. And, Aelita says, you should go to bed. It's not a nightmare it's not the end of the world, she says, if I'm virtualized another day. But then Jeremy says, no, I've got work to do, and then he leaves. And Sissi, when she's talking with Herb, however whatever your flavor of herb is that you prefer, he says I don't think he's very enthused about this entire idea. He just says, Sissi, maybe you should just go to bed. But no, Sissi's not going to go to bed because she has all this plotting and planning to do. Of course, she is the one who ends up sleeping. But one thing about the scene that I do want to take special note of, we've mentioned it before that Aelita is very willing to be self-sacrificing. Aelita is very much probably the most mature person in the entire group. The way, she tells Jeremy, you should just go to sleep. It's not the end of the world if I'm not materialized tonight. Jeremy, of course, is all consumed with materializing Aelita. It's all he can think about. This is the third straight episode in a row that he mentions it. We might even want to keep a track, because I bet you it's a certainty that there are more episodes he doesn't mention it than episodes that he does.
You mean does than doesn't?
Yes. Don't let me talk for too long, because if I just start running, my brain stops paying attention to the words I'm saying because I have a short attention span, and I just sort of start fumbling all my words together. So keep like an air horn or something handy, and if I hit more than, say, 35 seconds... Just go ahead and lay on it till I stop.
You're good, Ben. You're good.
Well,
you're all good.
The thing to say about virtualization, or de-virtualization, is that any episode in Season 1 could be the first episode. So they have to mention it in case it's some viewer's first experience of the show.
And as a side note, it very well may have. We mentioned this, I think, in the first episode. Code Lyoko aired every single day. There were only 26 episodes in the first season.
Yep.
So that's a month. What are they going to do between the time that Season 1 ends and Season 2 starts? Air the episodes all over again. Over and over and over again.
Again and again and again. Which they did, which is, I think, how all three of us got into it.
Yeah, I highly doubt I watched the first, the very first running of the show. I'm sure that I caught it, on the fourth or fifth time.
I didn't... Well, I kind of saw it. I've told my story, but I didn't really get into the show until the summer right before Season 2 started.
Same here.
Yeah.
I guess we were just at the right age and the right time. So, where were we?
Sissi had just fallen asleep. Jeremy is on his way to the factory. He wants to go see what's up with the Xana attack.
But he opens the door and there's the smoke.
And it's just this billowing, purplish smoke, and Jeremy starts coughing immediately, freaking out. So he closes the door that he had just opened in an attempt to get into the factory. Or, into the boiler room to get to the tunnel to get to the factory. And then do you know who shows up? Guess who shows up? Jim shows up. And Jim says, Jim asks why Jeremy is down there. And he says, and don't tell me that you were sleepwalking, because I've worked here for 20 years, and I've gotten that quite a bit. And that's the first time that we see noted that Jim has been around for 20 whole years.
Which gets even more impressive in the next season when we find out how many other jobs he's had.
Yeah, Jim has also been an astronaut. He was something like, a forest ranger in Quebec?
Yes. He was in the military for a good long time.
He was a paranormal investigator once.
A salvage diver.
Yeah, you guys remembered all these. There were so many I could never stop and remember them all.
There's at least 10 more.
Oh, there's lots of them.
He is a well-traveled man.
I'm trying to remember at least one more. It'll come to me.
And somehow middle school gym teacher was the one that stuck.
Well, I mean, when you run out of other jobs to do, sure, I guess I'll work in a school.
He gets room and board. I'm sure the pay is good.
Because it's Europe, and teachers are actually respected there.
Wah, wah, wah. So yes, Jeremy is put back in his room, and of course the next morning he just runs off and tries it again. This time he actually manages to make it past the gas, which I guess
past gas.
Oh no. So Jim and Sissi are the only ones left in the dorm, and I guess the gas, having nothing better to do, decides to terrorize them.
I mean, there's no one else for the gas to go after.
I mean, certainly not someone in Xana's backyard. That just hit me that the entire school is like Xana's lawn.
And basically, you damn kids, get off my lawn!
Lawn.
That's what it must have been this whole time.
Yeah,
They
he just wants to. He just wants everyone to leave him alone.
He just wants some peace, quiet.
I've lost track of what's happening.
Well, right
Xana's
now,
actually a crotchety old man.
Right. Well, yeah. Right now, Jim and Sissi are dying in a closet. You know, as one does.
As one does.
And so Jeremy is trying to get to the factory, but this time he can't because the gas is now everywhere on campus. He's running outside, and this billowing smoke is coming up everywhere, and he effectively passes out. Wait, no, I'm ahead of myself because he had to call the others first, didn't he?
Yeah, no, he did get to the factory. He calls the others, who are all by sheer coincidence just about to leave. Odd is just about to get on the plane where he is being held up by the two stupidest TSA agents ever.
Well, they're not TSA. They're probably called something else in France.
The border police, probably.
Probably.
But they are looking at an X-ray of Odd's bag, and there is quite clearly a kiwi-shaped skeleton in it. Kiwi the dog, not kiwi the fruit. And,
or the bird.
Yeah, or the bird. And they ask what is in his suitcase, because they say it looks like a skeleton. Your skeleton is moving, they say, as Kiwi moves on the monitor. And we're all kind of floored at the fact that, of course, you know, maybe Kiwi is just such a weird-looking creature even to them that they don't know what it is. That could be it.
Oh, and for our younger viewers, this was before Undertale made skeletons sexually appealing. So just
that's
in
very
case
true.
You're wondering
yeah.
why this wasn't on daytime TV on Cartoon Network.
So as Odd is in the airport, he gets a call from Jeremy, informing him that he needs to, you know, leave and come back to the factory. Jeremy responds, Odd responds, "Hi, Graham," and Jeremy's like, "It's me, Odd, Jeremy." And Odd continues to talk to Graham, saying, "Oh, I know that you wanted me not to bring the dog, so I'll come home now," and just leaves. He just leaves the airport. His presumably 100-something euro flight. Doesn't tell his parents or anything. He just leaves.
I think at this point they know they're going to be reversing this, so they just kind of don't care.
Well,
if I could travel through time, I wouldn't care about anything either.
At this point, they have no reason not to return to the past every single time. Later on, they'll have a reason to try not to do it as much as they normally did. But so far, it's anything goes.
Right. Like, even if they don't need to, they still do it. I'll have to be on the lookout for situations in which they definitely did not need to return to the past. Though I think in this one they did, given that Jim and Sissi were about to die.
That's very true.
Ulrich shows the same level of not caring as he just sort of gets up and leaves his tutoring session.
And the tutor is, like, rambling on, just going on this speech about mathematics as an institution, while she's writing formulae on the chalkboard that she has set up. And for the record here, I'm not a French student, so I've never attended a French school. I don't know about the rest of you guys, but the mathematical formulae that she is writing on this board are not the kinds of things that I learned when I was 12 years old in math class.
Same here. I think I might have learned that in high school.
Yeah, Caddick is not even remotely messing around here about the kinds of things that are in their curriculum. It's very intense. Or, of course, that could just be the way, things are in France, where, students actually achieve things and schools are actually funded. But, that's neither here nor there.
Well, I mean...
I know, right?
Their academic programs may be funded, but their grizzly bear defense funds are woefully underfunded.
That's very true. You gotta protect your school from the bears. I mean, obviously, their school was attacked by a bear right there. Proof. See?
I know, right?
If only someone had had a gun to take on that bear in the first episode.
What's funny is that I will always think of that one scene from Inside Out when Riley's going to school and Fear in her head is going, but what if there's a bear? So that scene is ruined forever now. You guys know what I'm talking about?
No, I've never seen Inside Out.
Oh, well, you know the premise of Inside Out, right? It's a little girl.
Yeah. There's little people and their emotions inside your head, yes.
Yeah, well, so the one that's Fear is afraid that Riley is going to be attacked by a bear on the way to school. And Anger replies, he's like, what, are you nuts? There are no bears in San Francisco.
I mean, Stephen Colbert told us for years that bears were the number one threat to America. We didn't listen, and we were fools. We were fools. Meanwhile, in France, Yumi is in the car with her father, and we meet her father, and they are clearly supposed to be on their way somewhere, but they are not on their way anywhere. And Yumi's father says, or expresses annoyance that they haven't left yet. It's been 2 hours, and Yumi's mother is not there yet. And Yumi mentions that she's probably just trying to find that dress that she likes so much. And Yumi's father says he has no idea what she's talking about. And this is a very early indication that communication between Yumi's parents doesn't seem to be what it could be. There's something going on there. And you will want to keep your eye on that because it does become a plot point later. But when Yumi's mother does finally come down, Yumi's father is really annoyed about something. And he says, well, Yumi's mother says she's finally there, and Yumi's father says, well, you know who isn't? And they look, the camera pans to the back of the car, the door is open, and Yumi is just gone. She just opened the door and left.
And for future reference, Yumi's father and Yumi's mother are called Takeo and Akiko, I believe?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Takeo and Akiko.
Are their names ever said in the show? Or
Takeo's is, I believe Akiko was not mentioned verbally in the show.
Never found her way in, but I think she's named in the scripts.
Yes, okay. I'm almost certain that is actually canonical. I'm pretty sure we all didn't just mass hallucinate that.
Yes.
All right.
I think, David, you pointed out to me once that in order for Yumi to get away there, Takeo had to just not care that she ran off.
He didn't move. He
just hung out in the car.
As if that was some sort of vengeance he could visit on his wife, that Yumi had just run away.
When your daughter is as headstrong as Yumi is, I really think, you just have to choose your battles.
Exactly.
What's funny about Yumi's dad, though, is that all three of us had a very different impression of him. Right? I always saw him as a very authoritarian, kind of my way or the highway, mean dad. But you guys thought he was an oaf.
Yeah.
I really think I thought he talked a big game, but whenever Yumi stood up to him, it seems like she always wins.
And to be honest, we also need to confront the possibility that he may be written differently in different episodes. Code Lyoko, like any other show, has different writers in different episodes. And I believe this episode, who is behind this one?
Laurent Turner. He wrote a lot of the season 1 episodes. I made a list of this when I was 16.
Oh,
so y'all know.
Really?
I knew there was a 0% chance Mary would know who wrote the episode. Because you're a walking, talking Code Lyoko encyclopedia.
And she was a film major. This is the kind of thing that people who study films would take note of. To be honest, I almost never paid attention to that sort of thing.
Well, yeah, I wanted to keep track of who was writing it and see, find the threads of who was developing more of the characters. And I think I've identified a few writers who are more focused on that than not. I think Laurent Turner usually did a pretty good job, although their plots were a little weird, as we can see here.
You know what else is weird about this episode? The animation quality is poorer in this episode. I should mention the two when I talk about that. The 2D animation, the 3D animation, I think is pretty consistent from episode to episode. But the 2D animation in this episode is of a noticeably lower quality, probably because all these fancy smoke effects cost money.
Probably, exactly.
There's something I wanted to mention that I forgot to mention. There's a moment earlier on where Jim screams at Jeremy, and his head turns into a giant, super deformed anime head. And
Yeah.
that's the one and only moment in the whole show where they do that kind of thing, that anime stylistic.
Yeah, they
What do you call it?
hold back on that a lot. Which
Jeremy also flashes the victory sign, the peace sign.
oh
nice.
yes,
Is that... I don't know. Do French people do that also?
It doesn't mean peace, it means victory. It's V for victory.
Well, yeah, but I just mean, is that a thing that French people do as a rule? Would that not be unusual for a 12-year-old French child to flash that? Or is it more of just that creeping anime influence?
Oh, well, in Mexico we used to do it, so maybe they did it in France.
I would think that they definitely do. I mean, there's the spread of information is anything could end up anywhere.
That's very true.
So where were we? Where were we? So yes, Jim and Sissi are dying in the closet. The main three finally get to campus.
And this is where the gas has exited not just the building, but is now on campus as well. Jeremy had left the factory in order to check on Sissi and Ulrich, I believe.
Jim.
Dang it! Sissi and Jim. Am I correct here this time?
Yes. There are
Okay.
so many interconnected plot threads in this end here that I'm having a lot of trouble keeping track of who is where when.
Yeah. So Jeremy...
I think we've mentioned this is our second go-through of this episode, and even now we're struggling.
Yeah,
There's
yeah,
just
this
not
is...
that much to say about Holiday in the Fog. It's one of the most generic Code Lyoko episodes ever written.
It is very much... I don't want to say quintessential Code Lyoko, because I don't want to imply that it is, a necessary part of a Code Lyoko experience. But it is very generic. This is like base level Code Lyoko. This is the foundation upon which Code Lyoko seems to be built. Which is to say, you have a creepy Xana attack, and there's, you're running around trying to stop Xana, but it doesn't really... There's nothing that happens in this episode that you need in order to carry on in your Code Lyoko journey. You could skip it, and nobody would blame you.
Except maybe for the bit where Sissi says that all she really wants is to be a member of the Lyoko Warriors, which she tells Jim when they're trapped in the closet,
Well,
when she's just under that pressure.
She says it
That's
again in
kind of-
later episodes.
She does. I think this is the first indicator, but it's pretty vital context for her and her behavior.
It's very true.
I think it comes back in Mr. Puck. Doesn't it come back in Mr. Puck?
Yeah,
Sissi,
you know what?
yeah.
Probably.
Oh yes, that's right.
That said, it is the first time that we see this, because up until this episode, we don't really know what exactly Sissi's deal is. This is also the first time where we see that she's quite clearly obsessed with this whole idea of finding out what it is that they do. Or with being part of their group, and of course, when she says group this time, we don't mean the band, because the band is, of course, never mentioned ever again.
And
is this where Jim says, "Don't worry, Sissi, Jeremy will be here to get us"? Or...
yes,
Around there, yeah.
Yeah.
around there, yeah. And then Sissi says, "Jeremy, I'm glad to know the closest thing that Bruce Willis is gonna come get us."
Note, Code Lyoko thinks that Bruce Willis is the ultimate action star, and this will happen again in later episodes. He will be mentioned reverentially more than once more.
I mean, have you seen Die Hard? Have you seen The Fifth Element? The Fifth Element, a French film.
Oh, I did not make that connection.
Oh,
Maybe French people just really like Bruce Willis.
The director of The Fifth Element, Luc Besson, is making a new science fiction movie called Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets.
Oh,
Cool.
And it will be out
Bruce Willis
later this
gonna be
year.
in it? Is Bruce Willis in it?
He is not in it, unfortunately.
well, he
I'm
should be.
trying to remember who is in it. It's two young people, a guy and a girl.
Oh, how groundbreaking.
I think...
I know, right?
You know what? I was going to say I think Elle Fanning is one of them, but definitely don't quote me on that.
I won't quote you on that.
Don't quote me on that.
I'm writing this down as we speak, and I'm going to rent billboards, and I am going to say this, and I'm going to put your name on it. Just kidding. I don't have any money.
Oh, none of us have any money.
We're dirty, lazy millennials. We're unwilling
Not-
to get a job.
Absolutely not. I don't want to work in... George Soros still hasn't cut me a check for all this protesting. So I'm beginning to think I shouldn't be protesting at all, since there's no point to do it except to get paid. So Jim and Sissi are dying. They're running out of oxygen in the closet that they are staying in, which Jim sort of mentions, because, Sissi's there confessing her little heart out, and
Using up valuable oxygen.
Yeah, she says, "Do you understand what I mean, Jim?" And in one of the funniest lines, I think maybe even in the series, Jim says, "Huh? No. I just know that we're using up valuable oxygen." So they resolve eventually to not talk.
Yeah, poor things. Either way, what was it that they do? Yumi brings Jeremy back to the factory where Odd is, and Ulrich decides to go and help Jim and Sissi. And he's a little smarter about it than Jeremy is. He actually has a wet rag up to his face, but he still succumbs to the gas, and now there's 3 people trapped in the closet.
We should note he collapses literally in front of the closet that they are in. He's like, "I'm just gonna check one more," and then he collapses right there in front of the door that they are in.
In the meantime, Jeremy sends Odd and Yumi to Lyoko, and this is the first time we see Yumi on Lyoko.
Yumi, my favorite of the Code Lyoko warrior styles, as they are.
There's something important we neglected to mention.
Well, this is the first time that we are in the forest sector.
Wait. What about the vaguely romantic moment that Jeremy and Yumi share in the woods?
There's a vaguely romantic... You know what? That reminds me. That Jeremy Yumi thing is kind of is an underlying thread that we see in the first season, just barely touched on here and there. Never again. But do you know what? Now that we're talking about this, I remember there being quite a powerful contingent, maybe not a powerful contingent, but a noticeable contingent of people who actually ship Jeremy and Yumi.
I think maybe it might have been more of a thing back when Aelita actually was in the series Bible and Artificial Intelligence, because it sort of made this thread of, is Jeremy going to keep going for this virtual girl, or is he going to go for a real girl? Then Aelita was real, and it was sort of a non-issue.
I only remember 3 powerful contingents of Code Lyoko shipping. Ulrich Yumi, Ulrich Odd, and Odd Sissi. Those are the only ones I remember having any real influence.
Well, there's Jeremy Aelita.
And then, of course,
Jeremy Aelita.
The opposing Odd and Aelita, which...
I don't think that was a real...
Oh, there is. There's a real contingent of Odd Aelita people. And Odd Aelita people, you can email me all you like. Because do you know what I think about Odd Aelita? I don't, because it's wrong. It is factually, capital W, wrong. Trademark.
Go ahead and email me. I think about it because it's fascinating.
What I think is that Odd has a little thing for Aelita, a one-directional crush on Aelita, but he backs off because he is a bro for show, and he doesn't want to take his buddy's girl. That's what I think.
It might be a little more complicated than that. Where were we? Oh man, we get to Lyoko.
We're in the forest sector.
It's our first time in the forest sector, which is lovely.
Just gorgeous. Just this beautiful, sort of ethereal... I love the forest, and especially the Season 1 forest. In later seasons, they sort of update the way it looks, and the colors are brighter, and there's much more light. But the forest here is... I mean, it's not dark, but it's not bright either. The effect of, there being a canopy of leaves, so it's shaded. Go ahead.
It's got a very organic look. It's very cool.
Yes.
And as we said, we see Yumi on there for the first time, and she has an amazing aesthetic.
She's a geisha. You would see her and think geisha. I'm told that her kimono is not culturally correct, but she's got the facial makeup. Her weapon. Odd has his arrows, and Ulrich, of course, has the samurai sword. Yumi has a fan. That she opens up, it turns into like a circle-shaped blade type thing, and she throws it, and it comes back to her. And I think that's really cool, me personally.
Is this the one where Alita approaches them and says that she hadn't seen any monsters, and then Odd turns and he's like, well, clearly you didn't look very hard.
That's exactly what happens. Because they turn around and, well, there's some Cankerlots just sort of meandering on up.
Yes, indeed. And then they fight the Cankerlots. This is also the first time Yumi uses her telekinesis.
And here's the thing about telekinesis in Code Lyoko. In other things, telekinesis is, kind of this very powerful force. Yumi's telekinesis, it seems to take a lot of effort for her to do it. And it's also very slow. This entire action sequence, by the way, is pretty slow.
It's very, very slow. And as I told these two in the last take of our podcast, the first season, the Lyoko scenes are the only... They used motion capture.
Which I am still floored about. I had no idea that motion capture was a thing at this time. Of course, it seems like so long ago, but, I mean, really, it's not that much longer than that.
If I can, I'll provide links to the images, because they have some links to the actors they used. It's really fascinating stuff.
So as our Lyoko warriors are fighting these Cankerlots, and I don't think they're fighting them very well.
No, they're not. They are just...
In later seasons, Cankerlots are really like the comic relief, dumb, useless little things.
They're Goombas. They're the Goombas of Lyoko.
But in this first season, we are to expect them to be a legitimate threat. So Yumi uses her telekinesis to bring down this giant boulder on one of them. She then proceeds to get on top of the boulder to throw her fan down at another one. She misses. Then she stops doing anything, and the Cankerlot shoots her like 4 or 5 times. And she devirtualizes. And one thing about the first season, if you look really carefully, when the laser hits the surface of Lyoko, it blows away the surface temporarily, and you see a grid of underlying bright green lines. It's very Matrix.
And you also said the little sparks that fly out are actually ones and zeros.
I'm not sure. I don't remember if that happens in the first season, or if it's a replacement for that grid effect that I just mentioned. But if you look really carefully, the sparks of lasers are ones and zeros, like binary.
Ooh, I like it. I think that might just be in later seasons. I don't remember seeing it in the first ones.
I don't remember seeing it ever. This is news to me.
I didn't notice it until the Wikipedia article for Code Lyoko told it to me.
News to me as of yesterday when you told me for the first time.
So, either way, this distraction of Yumi's gives the Odd and Aelita ample time to get to the tower. Odd faces off against the rest of the Cankerlots, and Aelita creates a shortcut to the tower with her first use of her creativity power.
Right, which is the thing where she kneels down and she sings an ethereal melody, and she uses that to alter the terrain of Lyoko, to change the geometry. And
which is
and this
her
time,
one and only power at this point.
And what she does with it this time is to raise some logs out of the water. I was wrong last time when I said that there was only water in episode 2. There's water here too. And she makes little wooden stepping stones to get to the tower.
It's pretty cool.
It is actually. It's very creative.
He said the thing. He said it.
Dad said the thing. And then, as happens in essentially every episode, she deactivates the tower in the nick of time, just before the other 3 can die.
And when I mentioned the slowness of this scene, there's in order to get to the place where the tower is, there's like a bridge that's made by a tree. So Aelita goes over the bridge, and then she does her creativity thing, and the logs that she makes rise out of the water are very tall. So she very slowly gathers the energy to jump onto the first log, and then she, very slowly proceeds to jump onto the second one. And the Cankerlot tries to follow after her. Even the Cankerlot slows down to cross the bridge onto where the tower is.
What do you think would have happened if Aelita had fallen into the water? Is that also dangerous?
Well, I presume Aelita can probably swim, although I guess... do you mean like... like, do you think that Lyoko is designed in such a way that environmental hazards also cause the loss of life points?
Yes, that's exactly what I mean.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure that is ever broached as a topic. Is it ever, Mary? Do you know? Do they ever talk about something on Lyoko causing you to die, or lose life points, except for falling into the digital sea that we don't know about yet?
I don't think so. I mean, I think there have been some, like, cankerlots that have smashed against walls and then devirtualized, but...
Oh, that's right. Yes.
Okay.
But
so
that's never happened to the kids now.
Never.
Yeah.
No,
We're just...
not to the people.
No,
There's
we're just
not
left
even
to
any
ponder
falling
it, I
damage
suppose.
in Lyoko, because they leap from mountaintops, and they're just fine when they land.
That's a good point. I wonder if the writers never really thought about that.
Probably not.
Well, anywho.
Either way, we get back to this same night where Ulrich, or we end on this same night where Ulrich and Jeremy are spray painting and talking about how, whether or not they should still be doing this, Jeremy still wants to stay, even though they think that, quote, Xana will not be waking up again anytime soon. And they still spray paint a picture of Jim, but it is a much more flattering one of him as a king.
Yeah, he's wearing a nice crown. It's like I said, I'm just really impressed how good that they are at painting things. And does this ever come up again? The painting? Do they ever spray paint anything ever again?
To be the talented artist of the team.
Yes, that's true. Of course, that is in later seasons, isn't it? Or is it?
I don't think it's ever addressed in season 1. Right now, I'm mostly wondering if cartoon characters can see each other's outlines.
Yeah, we think it's good art. It's probably, for them, it's just hyper realistic. Like, wow, that looks exactly like Jim, right down to the shading.
That's really creepy.
Yeah, that is pretty creepy. Let's not think about it.
Definitely not think about it.
Well, there is that one episode of Ed, Edd and Eddy where Jimmy loses his outline and becomes liquid. Because his outline was holding him together. Remember that?
Oh, well. I mean, I know when I lose my outline, I fall all over the place. So, I see how that happens.
It's #relatable.
It is. It's very relatable. And that was Holiday in the Fog. As we said, this was a very as Ben said, this is a very quintessential solid episode of Code Lyoko. I'd still give it like a 5-6 out of 10 because, as we said, it's a little confusing at times, but at the same time, I enjoyed it.
I enjoy it, but I am very solidly right in the middle of the road. 5 out of 10 on this episode. You can miss it. You can read the episode summary and be just fine proceeding in the next episode. But that doesn't mean I don't like it. I think it's a very foundational episode of Code Lyoko, just not a what's the word I'm looking for? Not a remarkable episode of Code Lyoko.
Yeah, 5 out of 10 for me too. It's the Nilla wafer of Code Lyoko episodes.
It is. It is.
That's pretty much it.
And that's pretty much it, folks.
Alrighty. Like we said, if you'd like to send us any questions, give us any feedback, just say hi to us, or bow down in awe of us, whatever you want to do.
Tell me to shut up.
Don't shut up, Ben. You're great. David's great too.
You're all right.
David?
Here I am.
Okay.
No, it's okay. I was just wondering, what's the next episode? Oh, Logbook. It's Logbook.
It's Logbook.
It's Boglook.
The one that you guys don't like, but I enjoy immensely. It's the one with, what was it? Lincoln Avenue and... How did it work?
Oh yes, I think it's Washington Street and Lincoln Avenue.
No, one of them's Franklin.
Franklin and Lincoln, yes.
Yeah, because see, in season, well, maybe not only in season 1, the show tries to make it look like it's set in Murica, in the English dub, and that includes changing the names of streets and other cultural references.
They do not do a very good job.
Well, no, it's pretty ham-handed.
Well, sometimes,
yes, it is.
Remember the April Fool's episode where there's fish imagery? Because in France, April Fool's is called April Fish.
Yes, I do remember that.
Oh, I guess I don't.
Yeah, no, it's a tradition in France that for April Fools, you slap people with a fish, or pictures of a fish.
Oh,
wait.
Well, all right then.
I didn't know that. I thought it was just a name. You slap people with pictures of fish?
Yeah.
We are all learning so much
This
podcast.
It's a very educational podcast.
Thank you for joining us on this journey of discovery, dear listeners.
I know, and I hope we've taught you as much as we have taught ourselves. I'm Mary.
I'm David.
I'm pretty sure I'm still Ben.
All right. Super nuclear.